Hello and welcome back into Hoosier Gameday, brought to you by the Hoosier Network, where we bring you all the breakdown, analysis, and information you need about the Hoosiers. My name is Noel Fary. Along with me is Liv Clements. And Liv, not only did the Hoosiers put a win on the board, but they did it in dominating fashion.
They did, and she's going to be hot today because we have quarterback position announced. We have a Friday Night Lights game, big win for IU, and a Lucas Oil Stadium game. So it's going to be a really fun week.
It definitely is going to be a fun week. We're going to send it out to Audrey, Marr, and Kylee Corman for a little bit more analysis on that Friday night matchup.
The Indiana Hoosiers tallied their first win of the season over the Indiana State Sycamores tonight with a final score of 41-7. I'm Audrey Marr, joined alongside Kylee Corman for the Hoosier Network. And Kylee, what are your initial takeaways from the game tonight?
I think my two biggest takeaways, if you want to just boil it down, make it simple, the defense looked good and the offense looked good. I don't know that the defense looked as impressive per se as it did against Ohio State. I mean, two completely different teams, but they did hold Indiana State. Indiana State's only score was defensive, recovered from a fumble. And the offense, we know that there has been a running back room. They've been consistent. We got to see more of the wide receivers today, which I was really excited about. Omar Cooper Jr., which I will add that was my roundtable pick to have a pretty good season. He had an incredible game today, and it's starting to come together for them.
Yeah, and we got to see a lot of this offense today, which we didn't last week. And an ongoing question of the season is the quarterback situation. Did you see any separation between the two tonight?
I think Indiana might have found their starting quarterback. Taven really took advantage of the opportunity tonight. 18 for 21, 236 passing yards. He had a rushing touchdown himself. The offense just seemed to have a lot more momentum and structure and rhythm when Taven was in versus when Sorsby was in. So I think Taven might be the starter from here on out.
That'll be it tonight from us at Memorial Stadium. I've been Audrey Marr alongside Kylee Corman for the Hoosier Network. We'll see you next week at Lucas Oil Stadium.
Thanks, guys. Now, Liv, clearly this is a big win for IU, but what everyone is talking about is that starting quarterback position.
Right, and so it was announced that Taven Jackson will be starting for IU for the Lucas Oil game against Lousville, which will be really exciting to see how he plays and what he can do to adjust and go with the team as well offensively to see if they can get a flow. Now, Taven's went 19 for 25 so far in the season with these last two games, around 260 yards. He does have a touchdown under his belt as well with his own rushing yards. But it's important to say that now Sorsby will be back up going into this next Louisville game and throughout the season. But you have Dexter Williams still there. No one's really brought him up that much, and he's recovering. They said that he's been practicing and stuff like that. So I think it will be important to see when he comes back mid-season, is that going to be another tryout, or is IU going to have to readjust again? I think it will be important to see how Taven does. I think this will be a good shot. I think the Louisville game is a perfect place because it's a neutral site. It's not like he's starting away or with the energy from Memorial Stadium. So I think it will be a good game for Taven. I think it was a good decision.
No, I definitely agree with you, Liv. I think right now, from what we've seen this season, Taven is the guy that's going to give you the best chance offensively to put things together. I think Sorsby, going into it, I had a little bit more confidence in him because I just think he knew the playbook a bit more. He had been with the team for a little bit longer. But Taven, he just kind of has that X factor that I didn't see that much of in Sorsby through these first two games. So I think Taven, now that you're going to get a solidified quarterback position, you're going to have a guy who has played for a little bit. Maybe you can start to get the receivers involved a little bit more. Guys like Cam Camper, transfer from Clements, and guys who the weapons are there, but they just haven't gotten a chance to get comfortable in the offense yet.
I mean, like you said, the weapons are there. Receivers coming in like E.J. Williams from Clemson, for example. Yes. He's a big part of that offense. Cam Camper, returner, yet to really see him get in a flow. I think it will be important to state that with Taven going into this, passing the ball is going to be crucial. I think IU needs to understand that passing the ball is going to help them win. Rushing the ball is great. You have Jalen Lucas. He's great.
Yes.
He's needed. But with Jalen Lucas consistently getting hit with 10 carries, like he just did 10 carries, 88 yards, 2 touchdowns, which is great. That's awesome to have offensively. But with receivers, you need those as well. It's football. Everyone has a spot, right?
Exactly.
You have a Marr Cooper as well. But I think if they can figure out how to offensively get a flow into the receivers, I think it could be a game changer for IU going into Louisville for sure. Defensively, they're strong.
Yeah,
You saw that
clearly.
with Liz Toomer's interception as well. So I don't think defensively, I don't think there's much to be talking about. I think if they stay consistent, it'll be great. I think, though, offensively, they know the changes. We know the changes. They can be important going in this Louisville game if they can do that.
Definitely. You mentioned Jalen Lucas. The thing that concerns me about him, obviously he's going to be a game changer for this Hoosier team. He is fast. He's explosive. He's a guy who's going to give you big plays. When the volume starts to pile on with a small running back like that, that doesn't work out long term typically. He's might get hurt. That's what concerns me about that sort of play style. So, if they can mix it up a little bit, like you said, integrate the passing more, make sure that your workhorse back isn't getting overworked, I think that's the recipe to success there. But, we think there's a little bit more to like about this IU team following that game. For more on that, we'll be back with our first special guest. With the first 2 games of the season over and done with, clearly there are some ups and downs to take a look at. Maybe a few more negatives than positives, but to take a deeper dive into that, we have the Hoosier Network's very own Hayden Smith. Now, Hayden, we've had 2 games under our belt now to take a look at. What are the positives about this Hoosier team that you like?
Yeah, so obviously the first thing that comes to mind is the defense. The defense has been absolutely outstanding for Indiana in their first 2 games. Played very well in the first half against Ohio State. And again, that's a top 10 team in the country, probably going to go to a very high bowl game, New Year's bowl game more than likely. You really liked how they performed there. And then again, against Indiana State, did what they needed to do and held them to just 7 points. Played a very good game against them. Couple interceptions already on the season. You got to like that. But again, it's a very small sample size within the first 2 games. A very good Ohio State team where Indiana only scored 3 points off of a field goal. And then against an FCS school like Indiana State, it's an expected win against them and a dominating victory at that. So going into the game against Louisville, that's where you're really going to find out what this team is truly good at and what they're not.
No, definitely. And you said it, Hayden, a small sample size. And I just think the disparity between those 2 games, like you said, Ohio State and Indiana State, 2 very different teams. Do you think 2 games like that give you enough data to make any sort of conclusions about this team?
Not necessarily. Again, you had to put Taven Jackson as QB number 1 after the Indiana State game because he's the one that led every touchdown drive. Now, he might not have had a passing touchdown in that game, and Indiana might not have had a passing touchdown all year just yet, but it's going to come. Eventually, they're going to get settled down, and everything is going to start falling in place. The run game, obviously, it's looking great with Jalen Lucas, but like you said earlier, who knows how long that could hold up with a guy like Jalen Lucas. But no, it's within the first 2 games of the year, and like you said, with the disparity between an incredible Ohio State team and a struggling Indiana State team, it's hard to really make a decision on how this Indiana team is going to play out through the rest of the year.
Yeah. So we've gone over the positives. Now, maybe this list might be a little longer. What do you think? Now, let's not list everything here, but what do you think are the negatives about this team that are the things holding them back the most?
So my first thing is the passing game. Now, again, like I've said multiple times already, it's hard to actually make a decision on what the biggest thing that's holding back Indiana right now. But their passing game just has not caught on yet. You have incredible receivers like Cam Camper, E.J. Williams. You've got a lot of great guys out there. Donovan McCulley has been really good through the first 2 games of the year, but you really haven't seen that one game thus far that Indiana's really asserted their dominance in the passing game. And like Liv said earlier, that is what is going to get Indiana victories going forward this season. And going against Louisville, it's a team that is very similar to Indiana. They rely heavily on their defense to win football games, but they have a better passing game. They have a really good quarterback in Jack Plummer, a guy that's from Purdue. He's seen this Indiana team before, so he knows exactly what's about to come to him.
Yeah. Well, speaking of the Louisville game, Hayden, before we send it over to Liv and her special guest, How do you see that game playing out for the Hoosiers?
So it's going to be a very good game, a game up in Lucas Oil Stadium, Indianapolis. It's really not, it's obviously a neutral site game, but Indiana and Louisville fans alike are going to travel well, and they're going to be on opposite sides of the stadium. It's going to be a great atmosphere, but I got the Louisville Cardinals. They're going to win by a touchdown.
Okay. Sounds good. Well, thank you so much, Hayden, for coming on with us, the Hoosier Network's very own. But speaking of that Louisville matchup, we are going to send it over to Liv and her special guest to take a deeper dive into that.
Well, going in 2-0 against the Hoosiers, how are you feeling about this game? What is a matchup that you're looking forward to? Is it running back to running back, quarterback to quarterback, defense to defense? Like, how are you feeling about it?
Well, first of all, in the grand scope, it's just a good test for Indiana. It's the best test so far. I mean, they've had two games that are really opposite sides of the spectrum. You played a top 5 team, you played an FCS team. It's just hard to kind of tell where you are when you're in situations like that. So Louisville, a team that's kind of more on their level, a team that you really don't know what's going to happen at an FBS level at a Power 5 conference this year. Position-wise, what I'm looking forward to most, I'm looking forward to the battle up front on both sides. You know, Louisville's got a great run game. That's what they're best at. That's what they're known for. And a lot of it is because of Jawar Jordan. A lot of it's because of the offensive line. They got a couple transfer from Purdue, Eric Miller in particular on the offensive line that are really good. Indiana's defensive line's been good, though. Andre Carter's been a great addition. Philip Bleedy's been great. And on the other side, Indiana's offensive line is impressed. I mean, it was one of the biggest struggles from last year, but it's gotten a lot better, and if they can hold their own against Louisville's defensive line, that gives Taven Jackson more time, establishes the run game more, but you can also give more freedom in the passing game.
And like you said, you brought up Purdue. IU loves a good Purdue rivalry, and it's important to mention all the Purdue players and coaching staff. So taking it off the field onto the sideline, Jeff Brom, head coach for Louisville, is resigned from the Purdue he coached there for around 6 years. And it's important to mention the record that he had, playing IU 5 times and beating IU 4 of those 5 times. Do you think that will be an advantage going into this game with his coaching style has already beat IU 4 out of the 5 times? Does that play a factor going into this game, even though it's a new team with Louisville?
Well, it's interesting, right? Because it goes both ways. You know, Brom knows Allen really well. He's beaten him 4 times out of 5. But it goes the other way, too. Tom Allen has played Jeff Brom teams. Even though it's a different school, a lot of coaches bring the same style. It's a little different, though, because Purdue, the Purdue teams we've seen in the past are not like this Louisville team. This Louisville is run first. They're run dominant. They have a good defense. Purdue in the past, you had really good wide receivers like Charlie Jones. You had Aiden O'Connell in the past. They've had a really good passing game. Louisville doesn't really have that this year, so it's a different style that Brom has.
I agree, and I think it's important to say all elements of the game. You have Jack Plummer as the quarterback. Yes, he's had 4 touchdowns, but 3 interceptions is a big deal with only 2 games into the season. And with IU's defense being so strong, I think that will be a really big deal for IU to step up defensively. Let's say Jack Plummer gets to have a better game. I think it could sway either way. So with that being said, going into this game, is this going to be considered one of IU's must-win games? I guess before the Big Ten matchup, because IU going in 1-1, Louisville's going in 2-0. I think it's a big game for both at a neutral site. But do you think this will be considered one of IU's must-win games to hopefully get bowl eligible at the end of the season?
Right, so you got to look at it with expectations. And coming into the year, one of the best case scenarios I think a lot of people would think is being bowl eligible, getting to that 6-6. And if you look at from that scope, I don't think it's a must-win. There's route for 5 more wins down the road. I think it would really help. I think it's a team that they have the potential to beat, but I don't think you call quits on the season if you lose this game and go 1-2.
I agree. I think it'll be a good game. And so with that being said, what do you think the scoreboard will say at the end of the game for the Cardinals versus Hoosiers at Lucas Oil Stadium?
I think it's going to be low scoring. I think we're going to see a lot of running games from both sides. I think we're going to see a good battle up front. I think Indiana gets the win at 21-20.
I like that. Okay, 21. You're keeping a nail biter.
Yeah,
it's going to be a good game.
Yeah,
Okay,
it's gonna be
perfect.
great.
It makes it exciting for both fan bases then. We'll go ahead and send it back to me and Noel. We'll give our game predictions as well as what we think Taven Jackson will do and perform going into the season.
So, Liv, we heard it from Hayden and Ben. I want to hear your predictions for this Louisville game.
This Louisville game will be crucial. I think if it's a high-scoring game, IU will lose. I don't think offensively they can put up more than around 30 points. And we've seen Louisville put up 56 points. So I think if it's a high-scoring game, IU will lose. I think if it's a low-scoring game, then IU will win. I'm going to go ahead and do 27-14. IU winning. As long as they can figure that out, they'll be fine. With Taven, I think passing the ball is going to be crucial for this game. I think if Louisville can read the rushing plays hard, then it won't be a game at all. I think Louisville will win. But I think they have a chance. I think it's going to be a neutral site, neutral game. How are you feeling?
Yeah, I think this is a really close matchup between these two teams. I agree with you, Liv. I think that if the Hoosiers can keep this a low-scoring affair, they are not going to bode well in a shootout by any means.
Right.
This offense does not have the passing game to do that. But I think if you keep it low, they've gotten 2 turnovers already, 2 interceptions, and I think if you can get some of those against the Cardinals, this will be a lower-scoring affair. Give me the Hoosiers 17-10. That is my final score prediction.
17-10. I like that. Okay.
Maybe it's a little optimistic for them, but
Hey.
we got to stay positive here.
We'll see you next week.
Yeah. Thank you all so much for tuning into Hoosier Game Day. We'll be back same time next week for all the analysis, breakdown, and info you need about the Hoosiers. For Ben Haller, Hayden Smith, and Liv Clements, I'm Noel Fary. We'll catch you next time.